G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome back to Gaming Legends, the show that still has some unfinished business to take care of. In the last episode, we set out to finish Sonic Adventure 2's hero story while playing as Tails in every level. If you haven't already seen that video, I recommend watching it before this one. This video will continue where we left off, with the new goal being to complete the Dark story with the same rules. As a refresher, we're playing the Steam release of the game with the Character Select mod, allowing us to use any character in any stage. The only characters that are legal for this run are Tails with the Tornado and Vanilla Tails. All other mods and cheats are strictly prohibited. If you want to try it out for yourself, I'll leave a link to the mod in the description. Without further ado, let's turn to the dark side. Iron Gate is an Eggman level, and Tails controls exactly the same as him, so we basically play normally. However, all of our upgrades from the hero story get carried over into this run, making the early Eggman stages substantially easier. Hotshot is almost identical to Bigfoot, so we just spam aerial bullets once again. Dry Lagoon is our first Rouge level, which is conceptually the same as the Knuckles stages. Since neither Tails can climb walls, we can't get very high in the small oasis area. And we can't even visit the big oasis because jumping on the turtle just crashes the game. We need all 3 emerald shards to spawn in this area on the lower half of the stage, which we can do using Death Abuse. The only way to die here is to drown in the water under the turtle, which you'll be doing a lot. I recommend collecting the shards in reverse order, finding shard 3 on the roof or in the water, and shard 2 in the trees or next to the statues. It'll definitely make a dent in your life counter, but infinite monkeys with infinite typewriters will eventually write Shakespeare. Radical Highway is a little quirky. For some reason, Shadow, Tails, and Vanilla Tails all have slightly different starting points. The Tornado can't get very far though. Even if you can get past this gap with a perfect hover, you'll get stuck on the springs, which don't launch mechs as high as other characters. Vanilla Tails isn't able to use pulleys, and grabbing one of these poles leads to a crash. But unlike the Tornado, Vanilla Tails can use the many rockets throughout the stage. At this intersection, head left towards the Flame Ring path to bypass the pulleys. Vanilla Tails has infinite flight time, letting you skip past the entire stage if you get high enough. I recommend roughly following the stage path, dropping down to the goal once you see the final corkscrew. After a breezy voyage across the sand ocean, we get to Egg Quarters. This stage might seem like a clone of Death Chamber, but there's no iron crates blocking the path this time. It's actually closer in style to Pumpkin Hill, keeping the 3rd key buried until we collect Rouge's Pick Nails upgrade. Make sure you grab them as the same Tails you intend to finish the level with, lest you softlock the save file again. We then have 3 Eggman stages in a row, but there's still a bit more to say about them. Lost Colony and Weapons Bed contain Eggman's jet engine and large cannon upgrades respectively, allowing Eggman to hover and destroy iron crates. However, these upgrades only apply to Eggman. The equivalent upgrades for Tails are obtained from the hero story, so doing these stages first would make them impossible. But since we did the hero story first on this file, we just breeze through them. As for the Tails boss fight, we just end up doing it from Tails' perspective. Security Hall is decently accessible with both Tailses. There's a pulley for the Tornado and a rocket for Vanilla Tails. I personally recommend the latter though, as the Cyan Emerald spawned in an area we can only reach with a missile. The emeralds will sometimes spawn in the safes we can't dig into, and the time limit makes things a bit harder, but with enough resets we can move on. Flying Dog is very similar to Bigfoot and Hotshot, but he's significantly harder. Even with bullet spam, the opportunities to hit him are much rarer. Plus, most of his attacks will kill us in 2 hits, and that's if you're lucky. And one of those attacks is just existing vaguely near us. With a little luck and a little patience, we can finally get this dog to roll over and play dead. White Jungle is very similar to Green Forest, being littered with vines threatening to crash the game if we dare touch them. You'll need to bypass almost the entire level with hovering. If the camera doesn't cooperate, you can still tell where Tails is based on the rain. Apparently Gunn was working on heat-seeking precipitation. You will have to drop down eventually to get your bearings, where I recommend following the vines. They usually only take you in a straight line, letting us reunite with Eggman with 3 minutes to spare. Route 280 is technically a Rouge level, but it's also a car level. Tails has his own car level in the hero story, and it behaves identically to Rouge's. However, the character select mod I was using had no effect on this level. No matter which button I held down, I always got Rouge. And as far as I can tell, there's no equivalent mod in existence that can fix this. Now, there's functionally no difference in physics between Tails and Rouge in these levels, so there's an argument to be made that the challenge shouldn't be void. Then again, this video isn't called Can You Beat Sonic Adventure 2 with only Tails and with Rouge as a chaperone, so if anyone wants to have a go at modding Tails into this level, please let me know if you do it. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about Rouge's picture showing up on the save file because the game won't save our progress after this level. Instead, it waits until after Skyrail, whose namesake gave me cause for concern. Luckily, you can start hovering as soon as the level loads, and the path is mostly downhill overall. I did initially overshoot the goal, but it's not a big deal. The Egg Golem is much easier in this timeline, since he's normally fought as Eggman anyway. Then we get to Mad Space, the final Rouge level. Most of Meteor Herd's problems apply here, but for different reasons. All the rockets between planets are locked behind switches, and all but one of them are inside iron crates. The only planet we can visit is the spherical planet, and the gravity here makes maintaining a hover mostly impossible. The only accessible damage source on this planet is a single bomb that doesn't respawn, so coming here with rings is a softlock sentence. Your best bets for Shard 3 are either the train or the boxes at the edge of a map. Shard 1 has a few easy locations on the spherical planet, and Shard 2 will appear on the platform just below the starting area. The artificial chaos down below can hold either one, but I recommend saving it for Shard 2 as an insurance policy. Fighting this thing isn't easy since its hitbox is on the top, and Tails' tails mostly attack upwards. But with enough practice, we can take it down, get the last Emerald Shard, and easily fight Eggman and Knuckles. I was initially worried about Cosmic Wall since it features a unique hover ability that actually increases altitude. But turns out this ability isn't exclusive to Eggman, even the Tornado can use it. So while it is still a long stage, it's pretty much normal, as is the rematch against Eggman Prower. Final Chase is focused on grind rails and gravity tubes, and while neither Tails can use the former, both of them can use the latter just fine. There was one moment where the game really wanted me to use a pulley, but the stage is full of unintended shortcuts. With Eggman Fight number 300 taken out in literally 2 hits, the Tails Adventure 2 Dark Story is officially conquered. But there's still one final elephant to address. We technically can't even start the last story because we haven't finished the hero story yet. But I was still curious, so I booted up my completed save file to test it out. The first 2 sections of Cannon's Core are done with Tails and Eggman, so we basically play them normally. Just remember to hold the right button during the transition. But then we get to Rouge's section, and we're basically trapped in the central chamber. The path to the main switch is blocked by a waterfall, and we can't reach the timer switch to stop it. And if we can't finish Rouge's section, then we can't even start Knuckles or Sonic's portions. The boss fight against BioLizard initially seemed impossible as well, since you're supposed to rail grind on his life support tubes to reach the weak point. However, I was able to bounce off certain parts of his body without taking damage, letting us hover slightly higher. Just high enough, in fact, to reach the button and damage him. The only catch is that we have to time it carefully with the red force field. If we fail, we'll take damage ourselves. If we succeed, we can maintain the hover into the next phase and strike immediately. The final phase forces you to float towards the weak point, but the life support is a solid object in this phase, letting us get in one final spin attack. Unfortunately, it's not possible for Tails to even fight the final hazard, since the mod doesn't work here. Final Hazard can only be fought as Super Sonic and Super Shadow, and there's no Super Tails in this game to replace them with. I am curious how Tails would fare in this fight if he were playable, but since we're still trapped in Crazy Gadget, it's a moot point. Before I go, shout out to Gaming Francis and Mondo Patrick 657 who had their own Tails only challenges. I didn't use them for reference in my run, but they're worth checking out anyway. And if you want to watch my run, I've uploaded the full playthrough to my archive channel. Link in the description. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.